Okay, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Black Spinner Music Podcast. And today, topic is going to be the ABCs of music. We are going to be doing the letter T tonight. And what this is, we are going to be talking about our favorite top 10 artists or bands that start with the letter T. We're also going to be using first name with the letter T, and let's see where that takes us. And today we have a full panel today. Let's go around the horn and introduce everybody. We have Jerry Soupy with us. How's it going, Jerry?
Great, man. How about you?
Doing all right. He is from the BS Sessions with Mark and Jerry, and tomorrow on their channel, also with the great Charles Trainer. He is with us tonight, and he will be on the BS Sessions with Mark and Jerry tomorrow. They're going to be making their Ultimate Queen album. I think it's going to be a double album the way it sounds.
Yeah, I could have made one of those essential albums, CDs they sell of a Queen album. So
yeah. And also with us, we have Al Horta from the Be Cool or Be Podcast Out. How's it going, Al?
I'm going good, man. How you guys doing?
Good. I saw that you went to go see Accept last night. How were they?
Pretty awesome, dude.
Okay.
Hold on. Can I?
Oh.
They were awesome, man. I mean, I never seen them in any incarnation. This is the first time I seen Udo solo, and he did all Accept. So I saw that side of it a couple of years ago, and then I never saw Accept ever with anybody. And Mark Tornillo, the singer, he's a perfect fit for that, man.
Is he?
I mean, he's done like 4 or 5 albums with them now, so I mean, he's fit in very nicely. He just got off being sick too, because he was sick the last couple of shows, and they had Jason McMaster of Dangerous Toys like fill in for him. I think like a show or two, and then Mark came back and was kind of sharing vocals with him. He'd do like a couple songs or whatever. Now he's fully recovered, and he did the whole show yesterday. And they were awesome. They were tight. They were really good.
Yeah, I saw them in 2018. The one and only time. They had opened up for Ace Frehley, and
oh wow.
Yeah, what's his name was also on the bill. The guitar, Pat Travers was also on that bill.
Pat Travers, yeah,
cool.
And Power Trip. So it was a weird combo, but it was fun. What we're going to be doing is that we're going to be picking our top 10 of the bands or the artists. So let's get started. What is your number 10, Jerry?
My number 10 is kind of a weird band, but I really enjoyed them. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I did really like them at one time. It's the Tubes. You know, everybody knows She's a Beauty because that was a great song and a big hit for them. But they got so many other great songs and great albums. Outside Inside was a great record. Love Bomb, great record. Fee Waybill is a good singer. I don't know what incarnation if they even still tour. I don't know, but
I saw them a couple of years ago.
How'd they sound?
I saw them open for Todd Rundgren.
Oh, did they?
It sounded great.
Cool, yeah. I enjoyed some of their music. I wasn't, like I said, a huge fan. This is hard for me, man, to find out 10 bands that start with T that I liked. So I have to pick bands I kind of liked. But yeah, I enjoy the Tubes. I'm sorry, go ahead, Al. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying Fee Waybill is definitely a character.
Yeah. But I mean, everybody knows She's a Beauty, but they got some really good records out there, man. I'm probably going to start to revisit some of them. I heard them in a long time. I have them. So, I'll probably start listening to them again. It probably kind of jogged my memory a little bit when I looked them up. Bands that start with T. So
anyway. So were they a little quirky? The two?
Yeah.
Right.
Quirky's a good word, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that song She's a Beauty, but the other stuff is kind of offbeat, kind of.
Yeah, that was actually written by what's his name from Toto? Who's the guitar player from Toto?
Luther.
Lukather, yeah. He co-wrote that song with them, I think, actually,
Okay.
if I remember right. But that's the other band that'll probably be mentioned later too, I'm sure. So
Mhm.
They are always hear about the tubes and stuff like that.
yeah.
Sit down and take the time to listen to them. What's your number 10, Charles?
Well, I have the same number 10, and also with the tubes, and check into White Punks on Dope. That's a
Oh
really
man, I forgot
great
about that one.
song by
Thank
them.
you. Yes.
Not much more to say from what Jerry said.
Yeah.
They have a very eclectic mix of music. So from She's a Beauty down to White Punks on Dope, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman,
Yes.
all kinds of different
That's what I'm
stuff.
talking about. That quirkiness.
Yeah.
That sounds something that I want to get my teeth into. What's your number 10?
I'm going with Twisted Sister, man. I mean, hell, they spearheaded the whole early 80s like glam metal scene.
Mm-hmm.
Came out of New York and were a fixture on the New Jersey club scene as well. I was too young to go see them in the early days, but I've caught them ever since they reunited and stuff. So a lot of times, not now they're not touring again, but when they first reunited, and Under the Blaze still remains my favorite album by them. I mean, that's so heavy, raw, and You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, another great one. I mean, and even Stay Hungry, killer album. I mean that was a gateway for a lot of people getting into heavy metal and stuff. So that's definitely a gateway album because they blew up on MTV, and I always thought like Twisted Sister, like I always thought Stay Hungry, Metal Health, and Pyromania were like the three gateway albums that got a lot of people into like metal and stuff. So Stay Hungry. I mean, Metal Health was really was the one that kind of got me into metal almost. I mean, that's probably might have been the first time I bought on my own, with my own money, the cassette or whatever. So anyway, back to Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry, classic. And then, they, as the 80s went on, obviously they kind of went on downhill. More bands, came up in their wake that, kind of eclipsed them. But in the early 80s, man, they were a tough band to beat, So that's my number 10.
Yeah, that was one of my first albums I ever owned was Stay Hungry, and you're right that set me on to the path. And that album, not just the MTV videos, but just beginning to end, that album taught me how to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Not just your favorite songs, to listen to the whole thing. Okay, my number 10 is going to be a little direction. I picked Todd Shaw, which y'all might know him as Too Short. I mean, I was listening to Too Short for so many years when I was in high school, with my favorite one being, of course, Life is Too Short, but also Born to Mac and Short Dogs in the House. All that stuff was really good by him. He was a really good rapper, but then I lost, interest after a while. It started to be the same old, but I just really enjoyed his music. So my number 10, I was going to start off with Too Short. Number 9.
Gotcha.
Number 9 is a band I'm actually starting to get back into again. I was mentioning it to Andy earlier about Still the Knot dying at 36. I didn't realize he was that young. I know he had a bad drug issue, but Thin Lizzy, sorry, is the band I'm talking about. But man, that was a talented guy, dude. And it's a shame, man, that drugs just ruined that guy. I mean, my favorite album is Nightlife from them because I think that's when they started getting like dual guitars and stuff in them. And they had a really good sound after that. But man, what a great band. That's my number 9. I think they still tour, and I don't know why. I think it's kind of a shame, but, more power to them.
Oh, well, aren't they under a new name, the Black Star Riders?
Are they?
No, that's
Or is that
separate.
different?
They did Black Star Riders so they could do new music, but I think what's his name left them anyway. Black Star Riders now. I think he's back with like. What's that?
Are you talking about the guitar player?
Yeah. Why can't I think of his name now?
Yeah. I can see his face.
God,
Scott Gorham.
I'm having a brain fart. So
Is it Scott Gorham?
anyway, Scott Gorham. That's it. So anyway, he separates that from Thin Lizzy. So Thin Lizzy, he'll go out and do that, and just play the Thin Lizzy music. He didn't want to record new music under the Thin Lizzy name though, so that's why he started Black Star Riders.
Gotcha.
Right.
But he's since left Black Star Riders. I don't know if they're going to continue or not, and I think he's just going to concentrate back on like Thin Lizzy again. I think so. I think if he does that, I don't know. I haven't heard.
I mean, it's cool because every now and then you'll still hear a commercial with a Thin Lizzy song in it. So, still cool to hear it, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, 36, dude. Damn. I mean, he was all fucked up, too. With pneumonia and all kinds of shit that he died of. I don't know what it was, but it was terrible.
Yeah, but man,
Well,
he
heroin,
hit
man.
so hard.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Phil
Charles,
man.
what's your number 9?
Well, I had the same number 9 as you had number 10. Old Shorty Dog, Too Short. I mean, Snoop wouldn't learn how to say biatch. If you never heard Too Short, do it on Life is Too Short.
Yeah.
Innovator of the game. And I'm a big fan of his work, so I'll put him at number 9.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. He was a big time rapper back then. I mean, he was one of the innovators of that kind of rap. And of course, coming from the West Coast, when most of the heavy hitters were coming from the East, and this guy comes out of Oakland when everybody else were in different places. So yeah, he was a big player. Al, what's your number 9?
I'm going with T-Rex, Mark Bolan. I mean, they're a band that like not a lot of people know in this country, but they were huge in the UK, and they were like gods over there. I mean, there was even a movement called T-Rex to see. That's how big they were, like almost like a Beatlemania.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, they're only known really for one, maybe 2 songs, Bang a Gong, and but they have a lot of great songs, man. And I really kind of dove into their catalog, and I could see what the hype was about. The guy had a swag. I mean, you look at somebody like Paul Stanley, you could tell like he got a lot of influence from Mark Bolan, man, by the way he moves and his stage presence and stuff. Or if you really look at old videos of Mark Bolan, you could tell like Paul Stanley was definitely influenced by him. So, but T-Rex, man, I mean, you should. Electric Warrior is the album that I always recommend somebody to start with. It's got Jeepster on there, Bang a Gong. I mean, it's got a lot of the big songs, so and he had such a swagger to him, man. It's just really, really underrated in this country. Not more people should be aware of them. So T-Rex is my number 9.
There's actually a couple of bands that were like that. I mean, Slade was like that too. They were huge over there in Europe, but barely cracked the,
Slade, Sweet.
Yeah, Sweet, another one. Yeah, good bands.
That whole glam rock movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Along with oh man, what's the name of that band? Mott the Hoople had the same kind of following over there, but it didn't really translate over here as well. And of course, they would dissolve, and then Mick Ralphs will go on to help out with Bad Company, which became even bigger. But then Mott the Hoople also gave us Ian Hunter. Ian Hunter as a soloist is pretty awesome. I really like his music. My number 9 is an American singer songwriter. James Taylor is my number 9. Not only is he a good singer songwriter, he's a hell of a picker. I saw him play in concert once when he was doing the Eric Clapton Crossroads, which you got to be a really good guitar player to be on there. And I was kind of disappointed because he didn't play the songs I really wanted him to play. He kind of focused more on his guitar playing instead of his song.
Yeah, a lot of people will relate to him as like soft rock and stuff. I remember him doing a couple of rocking tunes back in the early days, man. Kind of like Michael Bolton. He was started out kind of a rocker and then turned into a crooner, But yeah, good music. That's a good choice. I never even thought about James Taylor.
He really did, and I think he started off on the Apple label as well. He was one of the first artists to be on the Apple label. I think he was encouraged by George Harrison to do what he does. So James Taylor is my number 9, and not to also add, he also sings a lot of backing vocals on Tapestry with Carole King,
Yeah.
and he really fills that in nicely. So that's my number 9. All right, guys, we're at number 8. Jerry,
Gotta give props to the Motor City Madman, dude. I mean, say what you want about Ted, man. The guy can fucking rock, dude. I've seen him like 4 times, and man, every time, and he opened up and he just stole the show. Basically, he opened up. I saw him with Kiss 3 times, I think, and man, he fucking just. It was just a 3-piece. Him, with bass player and drummer all times. Man, he's fucking great live, dude. I mean, like I said, a lot of people don't like it because of politics. I don't give a shit about it, but man, he fucking puts on a great show, writes great catchy tunes, and you know, longevity, man. He's got a long. I haven't done anything in quite a while as far as. Well, have you done new stuff lately? I'm out of it for a couple of years, so I'm not too sure.
It's not very
He just put out a new album.
Yeah, it's
put out a
not
new
that
album.
great.
I think like
Yeah, it's rough.
Not very good.
Oh, not. I didn't think so.
But man, you know, you got to give props to the man, dude. The guy could put on a fucking show, dude, and he writes great tunes. So you know, Derek St. Holmes, man, fucking great singer too that he had with him, dude. I wish they would get back together. When was the last time they actually were together? I mean,
well, they were together. I want to say like 7-8 years ago.
Oh yeah,
they did a tour. They reunited, did a tour, and I went to that show, and it was awesome seeing Derek and Ted again on stage, bro.
yeah. I mean, there's just
Derek.
songs like
was a
Free
shit,
for All and fucking like Stranglehold, man. You hear them on the radio, you can't turn the fucking channel because they're so good, man. I mean,
Yeah.
props off to Ted, man. Love the guy.
Yep.
what's your number 8, Charles?
One album, as far as I know, from this outfit, but I love it. It's a great album, and I don't know if they could do any more ever. They can't anymore. But Temple of the Dog,
That was a good album.
such a great album. Great group of guys with Cornell and Eddie Vedder. So,
Fucking Cornell, man. One of the
basically-
best singers ever.
mix of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden together.
Yeah.
And it was a great album. I think it was out when I was a senior in high school, so I usually listen to it a bit every year, just a little bit of it, so it sticks with you.
Yeah, and also a lot of jam songs on there where they really stretch out. A lot of songs that you wouldn't necessarily think that they're Pearl Jam or Soundgarden fit, especially in the middle part of that one album they did. Those songs were just so rocky, jammy songs. Well, that's even a word, but y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Stretched out their instrumentation on that, and they really did experiment a little bit more outside of their monarchers. So good pick. What's your number 8?
I did see Temple of the Dog, one of the 5 shows that they did when they did that.
Wow.
Of course,
little
man. I'm
short.
not surprised.
Well, they played Madison Square Garden here in New York City.
True.
and
You're in the place.
I had
Yeah,
to go to that, man.
you're in the hot
And-
spot, man.
Let me tell you something, man. They were awesome, bro. And they didn't just do Temple of the Dog. They did like Mother Love Bone. They did
Oh, wow.
yeah, they were touching on, and everybody that was in that band, they touched on like a lot of the stuff, like, you know, I mean, Cornell even did a solo song. And then they did War Pigs by Sabbath. Yeah, they did a lot of cool shit, man. I'm sure you can find the concert probably on YouTube or something. I'm sure there's video clips of it on there.
Right.
But yeah, I caught that, man, and I'm glad I did, because I think 6 months later, Cornell was gone. You know, after that. So,
Yeah.
my number 8 is going to be Thrash Metal Legends Testament. I got to go with that, man. I mean, like when I was in high school, they were one of the big, you know, thrash bands of the day, and they put out a lot of great albums, man. And remember the first album I got by them was the New Order, and they did an awesome cover of Aerosmith's.
Nobody's fault or what?
Why am I not thinking of the song now?
Nobody's
the
fault
one
but
written
mine.
by. What's that?
Nobody's fault but mine. Wait, no.
Nobody's fault.
Nobody's fault. Yeah, nobody's fault. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew I
they
was
did a cool
close.
cover. They did a cool
Yeah.
cover of that on there, and that was the first album by them I bought. And then they came out with Practice What You Preach after that, and all that stuff. So they really kind of went. They weren't the big four, but I think they should have been in there. They're definitely up there with them guys. I mean, probably some of the most talented players in that band. I mean, Alex Skolnick is a virtuoso. Probably one of the best virtuosos out of the thrash metal scene. I mean, he's at the jazz and all that stuff, so that's probably why. So anyway, Testament's my number 8. I got to go with them. Love them.
Yeah, when it's kind of controversial, I guess, of what I'm about to say, but if they were going to be part of the four, I would have replaced Anthrax with them because Testament fits more of the other three's music.
I agree with you, man. I think
than Anthrax does.
I think Testament. Huh?
I just think that Testament's music fits more with the other three than Anthrax's.
Yeah.
Good one. This one I put in there just because we did our BS sessions, and I really delved more into them. My number 8 is gonna be Tesla. Because of the BS sessions we did a couple weeks ago, it made me listen to more of their albums instead of just their hit singles that I was more familiar with or their radio hits. And I really enjoyed them a lot, and I'm still listening to them here and there. So my number 8 is going to be Tesla.
Yeah,
I know.
We're at number 7, guys.
Number 7 is, I go with you, Al. Testament, man. Definitely, I agree with Andy on they should be replaced with Anthrax, in my opinion, dude. Love the band. Alex Skolnick, like you said, rips. I think they're still making albums. Like I said, I've been out of it for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure. But
and they're all solid, man.
Yeah.
Solid
I mean, everything
album.
I've heard up in the mid-90s to early 2000s is still great. So,
They've been consistently good, man. I mean, I can't really
Make
think
it
of really
we
bad
should just
albums
make it a
they
big
ever put
5
out.
instead of make it a big 5 instead of a big 4. I'll make everybody happy. But yeah, Testament's my number 7. They should be. I mean, great. They should definitely be mentioned among the best in thrash metal, in my opinion.
They released an album like a couple of years ago, I think, and it was really good. I forgot the name of it though.
The Brotherhood of the Snake, was that it?
No, it's something about giants. Was in the title, I think.
Giants.
Something like that. So what's your number 7, Charles?
Well, I like Jerry's idea of a big 5 because I guess I'm the lone panelist that thinks Anthrax deserves to be in the top 4 always, but that's fine. Testament is a badass band.
Titans of Creation.
My number 7 is a little bit out of the wheelhouse of rock and roll, some funky stuff out of Minnesota, The Time.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, morphed into Morris Day and The Time later on, but they started out just as The Time. I at times almost prefer them to Prince a little bit, but then again, he wrote most of the stuff and was usually the musician in the studio anyway, and did a lot of the backing vocals. But I love The Time. I listen to him all the time. So,
oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, they were here not too long ago.
Jane
What-
Silent Bob approved.
what's not to love?
Isn't there a problem? Didn't somebody from the Prince camp try to take the Times name from him or something recently?
Yeah, his sister.
Yeah,
His sister, is that who it was? Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't know how that went, actually. But, I mean, why? Why?
Exactly. I mean, well, she's saying, I guess because Prince came up with the idea of the band and the name, but still, I mean, it belongs to Morris Day. And I know that you said, Charles, that this is out of the rock and roll wheelhouse. Well, that's why it's called the ABCs of music. So we can touch everything. So, because I am going to touch on a little bit outside of our rock and roll. Al, what's your next one?
My number 7 is they're affectionately dubbed the Drab Four. It's Typo Negative, Peter Steele, and company. I always loved them, man. When they came out, when they were in the '90s, when Bloody Kisses came out, that's when they came on my radar, and that was such a great album. And I heard Peter Steele describe themselves as like, kind of the Beatles meet Black Sabbath. That's the kind of the sound that he wanted to go for. And I think he pulled it off, man. I mean, they, as gothic and as kind of dark sounding as they could be, there's like this underlying sense of humor to their. I mean, if you really look into it, I mean, Peter Steele really had this deprecating sense of humor to himself, and it showed up in the music, and I don't know, man. I thought their music was like real catchy, you know what I mean? They had great harmonies, and did a great cover of Summer Breeze, which is cool. Cinnamon Girl, that was another great one. They did a cool cover of the song Black Sabbath from Satan's perspective. They kind of did this cool twist on it. So I mean, I thought they were a great band. I mean, rest in peace, Peter Steele. He's gone now, but I got to see them live a couple of times, and they always put on a really, really cool show, And Peter Steele was just such a presence on stage, like you just big, muscular dude, but like just real tall but I mean, he looked menacing and he seemed menacing, but in interviews, like he just seemed like the type of guy would be cool, like to hang out with, though, Yeah. So, I never got to meet him or whatever, but I would have been cool. It would have been cool to meet him and hang with him. So, anyway, number 7 is Typo Negative. So I got to go with that.
You know what? Back in '96 or '97, we used to go to this club in Corpus called the Dick's Wildlife, and they had alternative night. And the next night, Typo Negative was playing with Ozzy and Sepultura, and I went to the show. But that night, Typo Negative was at the club. They were like upstairs, watching everybody dance. And my buddy's all, dude, let's go up there. Let's see if we can talk to them. And no, I'm not going up there. So I was able to see the band from afar. I didn't want to get too close. I just got so nervous. He goes, come on, because there were like lines of people up there, kind of talking to them. But I guess I got too scared. But Typo Negative, that's a good one.
I could see people being like kind of nervous and probably go up to him. He could be intimidating, So.
Yeah. And it's a nightclub, they're just hanging out, having a few drinks, and hey, I really like the band, So I kind of stayed away from them. Where are we at? Number 7?
6. Yeah.
7.
Well,
okay.
Andy's got to do.
Yeah.
Did you do?
Yeah. 7. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of touched on this, Al, kind of, but my number 7 is going to be Todd Rundgren. I'm a big Todd Rundgren fan. This is his debut album, but before this, he was in another band called
Utopia.
And that he started off with
Utopia, right?
No, Utopia was after.
Oh, okay. The Nas? Was it Nas or something like that?
Yeah, the Nas.
Okay.
Was his first band, and then he kind of went away from that. And Todd Rundgren albums are so fun because he can go from so many different styles on the same album, from pop rock to ballads to heavy metal to hard rock, and just so many different things. And I bought one of his double albums just called Todd, and man, it is a freaky ride, man. I tell you, it's a good ride. So my number 7 is going to be Todd Rundgren. One of my first friends that I met on Facebook named Jeff Claiborne is a big Todd Rundgren fan, and he sent me a couple of Todd Rundgren albums last year, and I really liked them. So I kept on buying them. So Todd Rundgren's my number 7. Number 6, Jerry, go.
I think I would Twisted Sister. I mean, I agree with everything Al said earlier, man. It's a great kick-ass band. Under the Blade is my favorite too, and they were good all the way. Love Was for Suckers was kind of a disappointment, but But that's one of the bands that got me into metal, definitely. Like Stay Hungry, Under the Blade, and fucking D, man, still one of the greatest rock singers ever, in my opinion. Guys, ever see that that video of him doing that song? We're not going to take it on the piano. Some guy playing the piano. Is the video just him on the piano doing? We're not going to take it. Fucking incredible sounding, dude. Dude does have a great voice, man. Really does. And I he says that they're retired, but I can see them doing a show every now and then. So I hope they do.
I saw them. I saw them do a show as Bent Brother too. They used to tour. They used to do shows as Bent Brother, where like it would be them without the makeup. It would just be them in like regular like jeans and t-shirts and shit. But it's them playing Twisted Sister. But they would go under the moniker Bent Brother, and they would call themselves the world's. They would call themselves the world's greatest Twisted Sister cover band.
I mean, still. Funny. Some of the best videos ever, man. The Niedermeyer guy from Animal House, man. Just funny ass video. And Dee Snider never took himself seriously, man. You know what I mean? He was so cool. It just, fucking a lot of good time memories watching MTV in the 80s as a kid growing up, man. And thank you, Twisted Sister and Dee, for that, man. Good times.
Yeah, I still love that clip of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. When they're playing Burn in Hell by Twisted Sister, and he's running through all the sets. It's a pretty cool because they came out in the movie, because they were making the video, I guess, to Burn in Hell. I love that track. Okay, Charles, what's your number 7 or 6? 6.
I got Triumph.
Nice.
Great band. Check out the albums, Progressions of Power, Allied Forces, or just lay it on the line. Great stuff. And that's a band I've gotten into a little more lately. So definitely check into them. Good old Triumph.
Yep. And still so unfairly compared to Rush. I mean, you got Rush. Yes, they're from Canada, and yes, they play rock, and yes, they're a 3-piece. But it's completely different music. Completely different.
I still think they're a lot different, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the comparison is because they're a 3-piece.
Yep.
They have a singer that sings in a high register. That's really where the comparisons end. I think their style of music is complete. The early Triumph, there was some progressive elements to their music, but I mean, they really kind of went to like different directions then, different paths.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Rush got deep into prog, and Triumph went more of just a straight rock and roll with a little bit more extended guitars than regular rock bands. And that's what makes Triumph, stand out.
I still want to see that documentary.
Yeah, I need to see it too. I haven't seen it.
I think it's really good.
I gotta look for it. What's your number 6?
My number 6, I'm going to go with Tool. I mean, I know some people don't like them, but I love Tool. I always have. They put on incredible shows. I mean, some of the best visual shows you'll ever see in your life. I mean, I kind of compare them as like a modern day, like Pink Floyd, really, just for their presentation and visuals and overall vibe of the music. And seeing them is just kind of a mind fuck, It's so I've seen them pretty much every tour since I first saw them on Ozfest '98, and they were like before Ozzy. They were the band on before Ozzy, so they were like almost kind of like the headliner of that tour. But yeah, I mean, Danny Carey's one of my favorite drummers. He's definitely got that prog style, very one of the most craziest polyrhythmic drummers I've ever seen ever. I mean, all 4 limbs are doing like different shit. I mean, I don't even know how like the brain could even process that. But I guess that's his influence, Rush, King Crimson, things like that influenced them. And I think Tool actually toured with King Crimson at one point. So that must have been I didn't see that tour, but that must have been a crazy show. But Tool. I love Tool. Number 6. Go with them.
My number 6 is going to be the same as Owls, Tool. Here's Undertow. Really great band. I saw them in '97 when Lollapalooza used to tour and go around. And I was surprised that they
Yeah.
came to my little town of Corpus Christi. That was really eclectic thing. It was them, Snoop Dogg, one of the Marleys. Korn was supposed to be there, but Korn dropped out. And Tool didn't close, which was a disappointment. But they were still touring behind Enema at the time, which is my favorite Tool album. Still is. I think what happened to Tool was that there was such a long layover in between albums. And then when their last album came out, it had been
Like 13 years.
huh?
It was like 13 years or something.
Yeah.
Like,
And when
yeah, they take. I mean, they make Boston like seem like they put out an album a year. You know what I mean?
yeah, and when it came out, you're right, it was 13 years, and when it came out, it sounded so much like the other albums. You're like, they didn't change that much of the 13 years, which is fine, but you would have thought that they were so groundbreaking before that they would have been groundbreaking after 13-year hiatus. But still, Tool's number 6. I remember when I had roommates. One of my roommates loved Tool, and almost every night we listened to Tool while we were playing cards or whatever, or drinking beer and stuff like that. So yeah, Tool has a lot of fond memories for me. So that's my number 6 as well. All right, guys, we're halfway through, kind of. Number 5, Jerry.
Yeah, I agree with Charles, man. Triumph is my number 5, man. What a great freaking band, dude. I mean, Rick Emmett, man, great guitar player, but man, he never gets noticed for his voice, though, man. The guy could sing, dude. And, Mike Levine, Gilmore, very underrated and underappreciated musicians as well, man. I got the privilege of seeing Rick Emmett with Dave Dunlop. That's the guitarist, I guess he always had on stage with them in Triumph, do an acoustic show in Nashville. My friend Joe remembers that one. So it was just a fucking great. He can still sing and play guitar, man. Fucking great band, dude. Like you said, they're so way behind, like you said, it's Rush as far as, being noticed, in Canada. But they're a lot closer, in my opinion, than a lot of people probably put them at. But I know a lot of you guys love Rush, but I think it's pretty close either way. So, but anyway, that's my number 5.
Charles, what's your number 5?
Could be my favorite super group of all time. And of course, there's another group that couldn't do it again because the people passed on. But man, they were phenomenal. The traveling Wilburys.
Oh yeah.
Loved it. I remember, I was in school when that was out. And George Harrison, Tom Petty, who I might hit on later, Dylan. I mean, come on, Roy Orbison, Jeff Lynne. It was just great stuff.
Yeah.
I can listen to that all day. Traveling Wilburys.
I agree with you on that one, Charles. I forgot about them actually, but that's a good mention.
But the
They
thing
only
about
had what, 2 albums?
Yeah.
they had the first one and then Volume 3. But
Yeah.
Volume 3 was without Roy, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, he passed away. Yeah,
Yeah.
by that point.
But
They did
But he
that
had
Wilbury
recorded
twist.
with them, though, right? Didn't he record still like some of that album with them?
Me,
I don't
know.
know.
I know Wilbury Twist was without him,
Oh, okay.
which I believe was on Volume 3.
Okay.
But man, some of the greatest musicians in rock history put together, and they check their egos at the door. I mean, these guys just and you can hear it in the music. They just loved playing with each other.
Right.
Bob Dylan and Harris have known each other since the very early days in the early '60s, and who knows with Roy, and then Tom Petty's work with Dylan, and then Jeff Lynne being such a big Beatle freak and doing ELO, and they come together and they make magic. They really did. There's so many great tracks on their first one. I'm not too familiar with Volume 3, but I am going to have to check it out. But their first one's just great. Really good pick. Really good pick. What's your number 5?
Well, speaking of traveling Wilburys, I'm going with Tom Petty. I mean, what can you say about Tom Petty is an American treasure. I mean, the guy had hits in like pretty much every decade since he first started. I mean, not too many artists can say that. I mean, he managed to stay relevant like throughout his whole career. And I mean, even going into the 90s with like Wildflowers, I mean, and the whole alternative scene kind of embraced him, and you know, I mean, even like I think his last album was Hypnotic Eye, right? That's a great album. I mean, I threw that album on like not too long ago, man. I'm like, I mean, this guy still put out quality shit, you know, like up until like he passed away, you know. And I got to see him twice live, which was I thank God, you know, like I did, because he put on a great show. The last time I saw him, Joe Walsh actually opened up for him. He toured with Joe Walsh, and what a great double bill that was. And I remember I had an extra ticket, and I asked my friend, I'm like, dude, you want to go see Tom Petty? You never seen him. And something happened, and he couldn't do it, or he's like, you know, I'll catch him next time. And he passed. And to this day, I still rib him about it. He's like, dude, I should have taken that ticket from you, man. I should have went with you. You know, he regrets it. So that's why I tell people, man, artists are still alive. Go see them, man, no matter how old they are. If it's a bucket list thing, just do it, you know, because you never know, man. So, I mean, and Tom Petty wasn't that old, you know.
No, he wasn't.
So he was a big loss to the music world, man. I mean, that guy, I mean, I from being a kid and hearing him on the radio to the MTV era, seeing his awesome videos, he put out great videos.
Yeah.
You know, all through the 90s and into, you know, my adulthood. And I mean, just what an artist. I mean, actually, I have my number 5. I mean, I probably should have him a little higher, but you know, whatever, man. My top 10 is top 10, man. You know, so
solid. Yeah.
Tom Petty.
Good one. That's a really good one. Mine is going to be. Hold on, let me write down yours. My number 5 is going to be a band that I got into just a couple years ago, but man, I really do like to jam them. And their albums usually came on the late 60s into the early 70s, and their production work on their albums were so fantastic for being so early. Talk about 10 years after.
Yeah, great band.
This is their second album, Stonehenge. Man, with Alvin Lee on vocals and guitar, and just a great backing band with him. And of course, Alvin Lee goes separate.
In the 60s, he was considered one of the fastest guitarists.
Oh yeah, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
And I think
crazy, man.
He passed away a few years ago from surgery that should have been like routine surgery, and something happened and he passed. But yeah, my number 5 is going to be 10 years after. I jam them quite a bit, and they're a really good, solid band. All right, number 4.
My number 4 is a guy who joined the band and turned the band into superstars. Talking about Tommy Shaw. He joined Styx and Crystal Ball, down Crystal Ball, and Crystal Ball, Grand Illusion, Pieces of Eight, Cornerstone, Paradise Theater were all fucking platinum, dude. The guy's a great songwriter, great voice. I enjoyed Styx pre-Tommy Shaw, but man, he definitely turned them into superstars. I kind of don't like the direction he's taking the band in now, but more power to him. It's his band now, so he can do what he wants with it. So
where do you think they're going, Jerry?
First of all, they have another guitarist actually who wrote like most of the songs on their new album. I have no idea where that came from.
Okay.
And Jay Wyeth publicly, James Young said that he's not writing new songs. He's just, letting Tommy do all the work, and he's just doing the live shows and stuff like that. So I don't know, seem to be getting kind of lazy, I think. But they're getting old too, so and they're always on fucking tour, man. I don't think those guys have taken a break since 2000. I don't think, But I love his voice, man. He's a great songwriter. He's a great acoustic guitar player, man. I mean, The Grand Illusion. I mean, fuck. I mean, one of the best albums ever, in my opinion. Last night you brought out their Wood and Nichols greatest hits era before Tommy. There's good stuff in there, man. If you want to get into Styx, man, and you want to learn more about them, check out those Wood and Nickel era albums. They're really good. They actually are. So, but anyway, I love Tommy and just wish he would patch things up with Dennis. That's never going to happen now, but good for him.
Yeah, I don't think they want Dennis back in the band.
Well, I don't think it's Tommy as much as it is James Young. I mean, Tommy's like,
I think JY is the one that doesn't want him.
Yeah, James Young said no, absolutely. Tommy Shaw was like, well, I just don't think it'll happen. He's trying to like not close the door, but if they did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if they ever get in, they'd probably bring him in for that. But other than that, yeah, I don't see.
Well, they'd have to.
Those guys are in their 70s, late 70s now, some of them. So.
Yeah, there's been a lot of time that's passed, so who knows? Maybe something might happen, like a big grand finale.
I say that that they're getting lazy, and I'm not impressed with the way Tommy's taking them. But I still go see him every time they come here. So what the hell do I know? So
they're getting lazy, but I love them. All right, Charles, what's your number 4?
I put these guys at number 4, not so much because I listened to them a lot, because I probably don't, but just because they were so legendary and found their name on there, I had to throw them on there. Maybe the greatest R&B combo ever, maybe The Temptations.
Oh yeah,
at number 4. I don't sit around listening to that all the time, but every now and then I'll spin it, and just great stuff. I mean, them and the Four Tops, another great one from that era. But the Temptations, I thought, were a step ahead, and I dig me a little R&B, so they're just legends of the game. So
yeah,
just
I love
because of their status, they got to be high up on my list.
I love Motown. I got to be in the mood to listen to them though now, but I can get into them when I really listen to them. And so that's a good pick, man.
No, I know that it's not all of the Temptations, but my wife and I went to go see them, I think 2017, and the Four Tops opened up for them. So it's pretty cool to see that. The Four Tops sang all their hits, of course. But man, the Temptations, of course, they still had what's his name? His last name's Williams. The originator of them, Otis Williams, was still there, of course. But man, their dance moves, just incredible. The way that they danced, it was just so great. And their songs and their harmonies goes on and on. But that's a really good pick, Temptations. Nice one. Al, what's your number 4?
Motor City Madman, Ted Nugent. I always jammed him a lot, man. Like, I mean, seen him tons of times live, and he always bought it. Just energetic. I mean, even now in the 70s. I mean, I saw him a couple of years ago before COVID hit, and the dude still was just like unleashed on stage, man. I don't even know how the hell he gets that energy, but he's got it. And he just rocks, man. I mean, I go all the way back to Amboy Dukes too. I mean, he did great shit in that. I love that stuff, that old stuff with Amboy Dukes.
Damn Yankees, all that shit was good.
Yeah, I mean, Amboy Dukes, man. I suggest getting Call of the Wild. Is a great album. Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. Call of the Wild, man. That's a great album. That's when he started kind of became like a trio, and before we went solo. It was still Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. So it was kind of the transition period, but that album freaking rocks, man. Then of course when he gets what's his name into the band to sing, we were just talking about him.
Derek.
Yeah, Derek Holmes. My brain is just not
Yeah, I'm the
working
same
today.
way. I'm horrible with names.
Yeah, Derek St. Holmes, man. Once he gets him, it's a classic. And then Free for All, he's got Meatloaf on the album,
Yeah.
which is great.
Good songs. Yeah.
Yeah, great songs, great album. I mean, from the mid to late 70s, man, he was like one of the biggest artists, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like he had bad management and stuff, and kind of in the 80s kind of went downhill. His material suffered too. Like a lot of 70s bands that going into the 80s, like the 80s stuff they just had trouble adapting, and all those 80s cliches of like the synthesizers crept into the music. And because I just played Little Miss Dangerous like the other day, and while there's like some songs on there that were good, there was some songs like, dude, what are you doing? It's just like terrible. But he bounced back then. Then I think the best thing he ever did was get together with Tommy Shaw and Jack Blades and do Damn Yankees. That kind of revitalized his career again. And then just Ted nowadays, he just kind of does his own thing. Everybody's more focused on the politics, but I think he just puts out albums just to put out albums. So like I didn't listen to this last album that Charles said isn't good or whatever, so I can't judge it, but I'll take Charles' word for it though. I think he's just putting out product now just to keep his name out there or something. I don't know, who knows. But in his heyday, man, he was a tough act to follow, dude. I wouldn't want to follow him like on stage, So Ted Nucci's number 4 for me.
He puts on a great show. No effects, nothing, just him and the guitar, man. And he
probably even today you don't want to follow him. I mean,
probably. Nah, dude, that's true too, man. Because he's still, dude. I mean, he still plays that guitar like a friggin' maniac. He might not be like swinging like with the loincloth and all that, but nobody wants to see him do that to see anyway. Anyway, but I mean, he still talks. I mean, his guitar playing is still. Yeah. He doesn't get like, because everybody focuses on his politics. I guess it overshadows his guitar playing nowadays. But he was a guitar hero back in the day. But I think he's kind of more in the underrated category now. He kind of sunk down into that, because not a lot of people name check him now, as great guitar players. I think he's awesome. He's up there with the greats. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, he's really noisy in politics nowadays. That's why he gets the praise and the abuse. Yeah, but no matter how you feel about his politics, the fucking guy rocks on stage, dude. I mean,
yeah.
I hate getting suckered into politics. This morning I got, and Charles knows because he was part of the group, I got suckered into a political thing. Mark, you fucking asshole. He posted something, I had to comment on it, and we got into a fucking fight over it. I hate being suckered into politics, man. But I apologize.
That's how Roger Waters is to me. I don't really agree with all his politics.
I don't even.
Music's so great. So I just always stick with the music.
But
I can separate. When I go see an artist, I can kind of separate myself from that stuff.
Well, I'm the same way.
Even this last time I saw him to see Roger Waters, even though he went a little overboard, in my opinion, I was still focused on the music, and I was like, dude, these songs are awesome, So
yeah. I saw the video. Didn't it start out him saying something like, "I love Pink Floyd, but I don't like Roger's politics. But if you don't like my politics, go fuck off to the bar," or something like that.
Yeah, you can fuck off to the bar and all that shit. Yeah.
That's fine.
Whatever, man.
I agree. The guy next to me, I don't give a fuck who his politics are. Man, we're both rocking to a cool show. So
yeah.
Same with Nuge, man. Swang dang sweet poo tang. Yeah. You can't go wrong with that right there. So.
I would have no problem Rick Holmes going to see Ted live. I mean, no problem.
My love is like a tire iron.
My number 4, a couple of y'all or all of y'all might have already touched on it. I'm gonna go with Triumph as my number 4. Fucking great band. When I was getting into them, my wife bought me like a whole bunch of their 45s. I was all like, okay, Triumph. I was all like, are there any other 45s by anybody else? It was a nice stack, though. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I love Triumph. I like their 3-piece band. They're very loud for a 3-piece band. In fact, they weren't getting nowhere in Canada. It wasn't until DJ in San Antonio played them in the middle of the night on his show because he loved Triumph, and that's how they started to gain ground. Was here in Texas, a Canadian band didn't make it up there, so it wasn't until a DJ did them a favor back then when they could. It was a little bit more freeform back then, and that's how Triumph got their name spread around. So Triumph is my number 4. They are a great band. I really like a lot of their songs, and they really do have maybe about the first 4 or 5 albums are really good complete albums. And like Al had touched on the cassette when he did Stages last week. Stages is a fantastic double live album. It's a really good one, and you can really hear their talent on that album, Stages. All right, we're down to the top 3. What's your number 3, Jerry?
No, we talked about Tom Petty, man. I mean, like I say, every time I talk about Tom Petty, man, he's going to be my biggest fucking regret of never seeing him live, man. I had so many chances, but I'm like, I'll get him next time. He'll be around, and unfortunately, that ship has sailed, unfortunately. But man, like Al said, I mean, people like Elton John, Tom Petty had hits in fucking multiple decades, man. Just, and Tom Petty, he never really compromised. I mean, he might have gone a little. Well, no, I wouldn't say he ever compromised. He did it pretty much his own thing, and and Mike Campbell and him were just perfect together as a guitarist and singer, man.
Yeah, that's a good partnership.
But like I said, it's like, I still get pissed at myself for not seeing him. And I had a lot of chances to see him. And now, didn't he die of something about a prescription was wrong? Was that right? If I remember right, or what was it?
He had it was an overdosage of fentanyl. It was fentanyl and another pain med that kind
But
of.
he was prescribed that, right?
I don't think.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew it was something kind of drug related, but I didn't know if it was prescription or not. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a prescription drug, but it wasn't his prescription.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
What a shame.
Yeah, it is. It's a waste, man.
He had been dealing with back pain for years.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know
Like
that.
a lot of musicians do, carrying all that weight every night for years, and I guess he borrowed some meds from some friends, or
That's a no then. That's a big no.
Yeah. So, what's your number 3, Charles?
My number 3 was perhaps the greatest group of musicians. I know they were the hottest session guys in the 70s, and also one of the very first 45s I've ever had in my life. Toto. Absolutely brilliant musicianship. Hold the Line was, again, one of the first 45s I ever had as a kid. I mean, that debut album they had is just masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. The stuff with Rosanna and Africa was cool too, but I really recommend just listening to that debut album if you've never heard Toto, because it's such an eclectic mix of styles on there. Oh my God, those guys were phenomenal musicians. Every single Steve Lukather is one of the best guitar players in the world. Another guy that gets overlooked way too much. I mean, being how great he is. I mean, what was it? Beat It. It was him and Eddie on the same track. I mean,
well,
the drummer's name, Jeff Porcaro, was that his name? Or what was the drummer's name? Oh my God, phenomenal drummer. Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, you can listen to Chicago albums from that era in the 80s, and they were doing a lot of the rhythm work on their albums. Definitely Stay the Night on Chicago 17 was Lukather and Toto and these guys. So phenomenal. Bobby Kimball. Holy jeez, what a singer. Just great band. Love Toto. So that's my
Yeah.
number 3.
Oh, what's your number
That's
3
awesome.
out?
I'm going with Tesla, number 3. Such a great kick-ass hard rock band. They were a breath of fresh air coming out of the whole like midst of the glam metal era. They came out just jeans and t-shirts, and you just in 1986 when everybody was like teasing their hair up and wearing spandex, and I remember seeing Modern Day Cowboy on MTV, and I was like, dude, this is cool, dude. So Mechanical Resonance, Great Radio Controversy, Psychotic Supper. I mean, all Bust the Nut, all just solid albums. Pretty much their whole discography is pretty solid. I mean, except Shock was not that great, but I mean, I give a band a pass. Having a clunker or two. Not everybody's the Beatles, and even the Beatles, had a song or two that I didn't like too much, but but anyway, I mean, Tesla was just a great band, just still cranking out stuff to this day. Great live band, Frank Hannon, man, another great guitar player that doesn't get the credit he deserves. That dude's awesome. So, and I got to meet him, and he's cool, and Jeff Keith and all them guys. So yeah, Tesla, man, I'm putting them at number 3. I mean, they can fluctuate, in the top 10 there, but today I'm putting them on number 3.
My number 3 has already been talked about by Charles, but The Temptations is my number 3.
Nice.
This one has Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Such a great track. And the thing about The Temptations, they started off, as the Motown hit machine or the Motown sound. But man, when they went into the 70s, their sound really changed. And their songs got more daring, started talking more about social commentary, and their beats got heavier and funkier. And that's what really distinguished them from the other bands of the 60s, like the Four Tops or like others that after their heyday, kind of like Berry Gordy or Motown kind of pushed them away. But the Temptations just kept pushing forward. I'm not too sure how long into them, but probably into the late 70s, I want to say. They probably went farther, but they stopped really mattering. But after a very long decade or more of being a solid band, and of course they didn't play their instruments, but their voices were their instruments, and their dancing were their instruments, and they were fantastic entertainers. So Temptations is number 3 for me. I really like them, and I'm kind of like y'all. I gotta be in the mood for Motown or for R&B, but I'm in that mood quite a bit. So I'll put them at number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Tina Turner, man. One of the sexiest voices ever fucking record a record, in my opinion. I mean, I was into the rock and stuff, and then I heard her on MTV. I just fell in love with a Private Dancer, man. What a great record that was. Wow. Then I went back and I heard her stuff with Ike, which was really good. I mean, Ike and her were good on stage. I could say that much, but a talented lady, sexy woman, man. And, and she doesn't really fucking, jump on Ike, anymore. She's like, just let it be. It's over with, everybody asks at every interview. They ask her about Ike, but she's like, she handles it classy. She's always been classy.
Yeah.
Great pair of legs, great sexy voice, man. That voice is just, man, incredible.
Yeah. Incredible stuff she did even into the late 90s with some live albums that were just killer, man. But that Private Dancer that she did, that was, I think she was out of the spotlight for almost over a decade, and then she comes out of nowhere with Private Dancer. And man, what an album!
That album was a monster, man.
It was. What's Love Got to Do with? I mean, that song was everywhere that summer. I mean, everywhere. That's a good.
I keep talking about what a sexy voice she has, but it's just true, man. I mean,
Yeah,
just raw sexiness, man.
Yep, you're right about that.
And she was awesome in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
True. Yeah. That's probably not my favorite Tina Turner moment, but okay.
Yeah, that Tina Turner look was not that great, but
She looked good though.
Yeah.
And the Hot Legs video, Rod Stewart.
oh, really? Huh?
Yeah, that's her legs that he's singing underneath.
Got it right.
And not just that, her work with Frank Zappa, also doing backing vocals on Overnight Sensation.
Oh, I never knew
Oh
that.
wow. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Ike Turner had let her do it because Ike said, "Well, no one's going to hear this anyway," and of course, that was Frank Zappa, and everyone loves Overnight Sensation, especially her parts, on the songs Montana and Zombie Wolf, and I go on and on. But that's Tina and the Ikeettes.
Yeah, her and Ike were great on stage and in the music, writing music, but man, their personal life was a wreck. So,
Yep. What's your number 2, Charles?
My number 2 has been touched on many, many times tonight. Tom Petty, just all-time great. Pretty much agree with what everybody's already said about him. Can't really say too much more. Just.
Do you ever hear anybody say bad things about Tom Petty? I never started a band does not like Tom Petty. You know what I mean? It's like the guy was just great, man.
Yeah. It's hard to not like him,
Right.
It's not just his music, but his persona and the way he carried himself and his love for music. It showed on the on his Buried Treasure show on Sirius XM where he was the host. He just knew so much about music and he lived it. He wasn't just he just didn't play it, he lived it.
And he wasn't a loud guy wanting attention all the time either. That was so cool about him too. He was so even keel and mellow.
Yeah.
Of course, the pop probably helps that, but
yeah. But he let his music do the talking big time. Al, what's your number 2?
The other Canadian power trio, Triumph.
The other.
Yeah, I'm going with Triumph, man. I've always loved this band since I was a kid. Trying to think when I discovered them. I think I saw the Laid on the Line video on MTV, and I was like, damn, these guys are really good. I started buying their albums. I remember in 1986, a couple of friends of mine were going to see them here in the Meadowlands, New Jersey, and I procrastinated. I didn't get a ticket, and to this day, I regret not seeing them. And I think Yngwie Malmsteen actually opened up for them. I think it was Yngwie and Loudness. I think opened up for Triumph, and I regret not going to see that, man. To this day, I remember I had tickets to see Rick Emmett too, and something happened. I couldn't go solo. Like I guess him and Dave Dunlop a couple of years ago, and I couldn't go, whatever. But I'm hoping he comes back around. I want to see him. I'd love to see him at least Rick Emmett. It's about as close as I'll get to see like somebody from Triumph. But they were great, man. I mean, him and Gilmore, like sharing vocals on the albums and stuff. I mean, Gilmore had a great voice.
Yeah, he did.
Gilmore seemed to sing the more of the rock and roll songs, and Rick seemed to sing more of like the progressive kind of songs, and he had a great register, man. I mean, he had a smooth, but he had a very high register, and a great voice. I mean, I think his voice is very underrated, and his guitar playing too. I mean, he's a ripping guitar player.
Yes.
That should be mentioned more in the conversation of the pantheon of great guitar players. So I've always loved Rick Emmett and Triumph. So that for me, they're my number 2 because I have like the whole discography, man. That's like one of the bands that I loved a lot and play a lot, and to this day.
Yeah, they're really good. They're so good that all of us picked them. I think we all picked them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
See, I was gonna say a couple of years ago. I mean, if we were doing this probably like 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
they probably would have been my number one. But there's another band that kind of as I've discovered like within the last 15 years, and I kind of took the number one spot. And we'll get to that. So
I wonder who that is. But my number two is we've already talked about him. He's got so many different names, but one of them that I like to call him is Uncle Ted, Ted Nugent. The dude's great on guitar, man. You know, the Motor City Madman, Uncle Ted, Terrible Ted, whatever you want to call him. Dude's a badass. And I remember watching him on that metal show, which he had been on there several times. But his love for early rock and roll, the birth of rock and roll. And he was so scripted and so studied in the beginnings of rock. And I believe he used to play with Chuck Berry and Chuck Berry's band early on.
I think he played bass for him on like he played a show or he played bass.
Yeah.
Well, with him or something. I think you mentioned that on the show. Yeah, he definitely on that metal show. He was definitely a historian of like the early rock, man. Like, he definitely knows his shit. So.
Yeah, he really does, and I really enjoy listening to him. You know, of course, his politics. Again, who cares? I will go.
But that was nice. But that was great on that metal show. He didn't bring up any of that stuff. It was just all about the music on there, which is refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when he comes out, it's because people ask him and people want to hear it and people want those headlines and these reporters want that shit. You know what I mean? But, I don't know how his shows are because I still haven't seen them. But I'm pretty sure it concentrates on the music. It's not like it's
he gets a little bit out of
he gets a little Yeah, I saw him in California. You know how liberal he is. I mean, how conservative he is. Talking shit in liberal California. I don't think a lot of people liked it, but I didn't give a fuck. I love his music. So
I think it's funny though. I mean, but it's just
you're not going to shut him up. That's for sure.
But
I respect that.
I will listen to whatever he has to say as long as I can hear him play that guitar.
You're always going to hear some fucking colorful metaphors too. Man. He's always going to say something cool, man. I mean. Like he'll whip you with his urine-soaked bullwhip, shit like that. It's just cool shit. I don't know if he comes up at the spot or he thinks about these things, but you're definitely going to get your money.
He's got a gift for gab.
Exactly.
He's got a gift for gab, man.
And amazingly drug-free. You would think he was on coke the way he.
That's why he's still energetic and still sounds great because he didn't take drugs and shit.
Yeah, he didn't.
He's a perfect example of why not to take drugs and drink.
Yeah. And in fact, the only thing he said he was ever addicted to was sex.
Yeah, well,
other than that, because he never drank, he never smoked, he never did drugs, and the music was his drug. So good for Terrible Ted. Love him. So many of his early albums were so good. The Double Live Gonzo, that's a killer double track, double album live. Man, it just.
His debut album is fucking one of my favorite albums of all time, man.
It's like at the end of that album, you're expecting more. It doesn't stop. But Terrible Ted is my number two. All right, guys. Number one coming up. Jerry, what's your number one?
Al mentioned a couple minutes ago, Tesla. One of my favorite bands. Like they said, their first couple albums, dude, in the '80s were just freaking legendary, in my opinion. Mechanical Resonance. Man, I don't know. There's not a bad track on that one. Great Radio Controversy, not a bad track on that one either. And a couple albums after that, there wasn't really great albums, but there's still good songs. Like you mentioned, how a disappointment Shock was, but that's what happens when you have Nine-Armed Def Leppard interfere with you. But I think Phil Collins
reach, please. Yeah,
I think Phil Collins produced that one if I remember right. So but yeah, man, I mean. Frank Hannon and Tommy Skeoch, man, were fucking a great guitar duo back then. I haven't heard too much about Tommy lately. I don't know. I know he had some big drug issues. I don't know if he's doing anything or if he's gotten better or what. I don't know. But, man, they were a great tandem, man.
I think me and Charles were in agreement that it's not only losing an arm, but losing to Pete Willis, too.
Yeah,
really
absolutely. Yeah, that's the double team on the death of Def Leppard in my world right there. So
yeah.
Well, I will have to Pyromania at least. So
No, Pyromania is still good, but
Pete Willis still
Just
wrote riffs on
Hysteria.
that
That
album.
is true. That is true.
That's
Absolutely.
true.
Pete Willis is still on that album, so I mean that's
Yeah.
why it's still good.
You're right. You're right.
Well, to be honest, I did hang on long enough for Hysteria. After Hysteria, I let go.
They had albums that had a couple good songs here and there, but nothing great. I mean, like Hysteria, I like the song Hysteria. I like the
Good track.
Gods of War. I like that song. But other than that, it's just pure shit. In my opinion.
Woman is the only one worth anything.
What's that?
Yeah, women.
Woman
yeah,
is
that's
the only
great
one song.
Um,
worth anything.
That's okay, man. But I like Gods of War. I thought was definitely the best song on that album, in my opinion.
There was
I
a
like
time when Steve Clark passed away. I always had this idea like it would have been cool if they would have brought like Pete Willis back, to replace him, and have the big I mean, it was just a pipe dream, obviously, but I thought it would have been cool if they would have brought him back, after Steve Clark died. But that once that pop stardom and that pop success you, dude, it's tough to let that go. When you get the money and all that women like throwing themselves at you and all the money in the world, bro. So.
Anyway,
Whatever,
back to Tesla. I think we definitely lost the
I got the first three Left albums. Is all I need. So
yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. But yeah, I mean, what a great band Tesla was. I've seen them a few times, man. Never disappoint. One of the greatest shows I saw was Tesla, Great White, and I think Tangier opened up. Remember those guys?
wow,
yeah, it was really one of my favorite shows of all time, man. And
Interesting.
And for Mark Alden Taylor, I didn't forget Tesla this time. I made him my number one. So,
Charles, what's your number one representing the letter T?
I have the same number one as Jerry, Tesla. The other band that didn't glam up that much.
right
Now we can segue into the band I like better, Guns N' Roses. No, I'm just joking, but pretty much on that same wavelength as GNR. And probably, I'll admit it, probably a little bit better in Guns N' Roses as far as quality overall of recordings and amount, certainly. We talked about Boston. Hello, Chinese Democracy. I don't know how many years that took. Tesla's just phenomenal band. I listen to them all the time, so that's why I have to put them at number one on my list.
Nice.
Do I think they're better than, say, the Temptations? I don't know. Probably not, but just who I listen to more, definitely Tesla, number one on my list.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you a question, Charles. I know that it's going to be way off of what we're talking about now, but what do you think of Chinese Democracy?
Love it. My second favorite GNR album.
Oh,
I would put it in the very, very good category, not classic, but very, very good. But it got lost with waiting all those years. And that was the bad part of having to wait all those years. That album could never live up to its legend ever. But I think it's a damn fine album. There's a couple songs on it I'm not wild about, that super techno-y thing, but I mean, songs like Better, IRS, This I Love is probably my second favorite GNR ballad of all time. I think Axl sings phenomenal on it.
I saw the live concert video and that band he had was fucking incredible, dude.
Yeah, I seen him too, but without Buckethead, who I think's the best guitarist that's ever.
I wanted to hate on Axl, but they fucking sounded tight. They sounded great.
I would have loved to see Axl DC. Is what I would have.
Yeah, I would have loved that too. Yeah,
he was singing those old Bond songs, and then they actually went back to standard tuning, which is something they hadn't done with Brian Johnson. They'd gone half step down, and just to hear these Bond songs again, because Axl can do both. He can do the Bond songs and the Brian Johnson songs reasonably well. And I think that Axl DC tour really got him back on the straight and narrow. I think Angus taught him a lot. You don't hear anything about him missing shows or being hours and hours late afterwards. So but I love Chinese Democracy. It's great. I think it's better than Use Your Illusions. So
a couple of songs popped up on my playlist this past week, and I had to kind of stop and say, man, that's a pretty good song because I got Chinese Democracy, of course, but I probably didn't give it the chance that it should take or be given. But that's
What was that song? What was that song that GNR had on that End of Days soundtrack?
Hated it. Oh my god. Yeah, I didn't.
That's it.
That was too techno-y to me. I like.
Them,
go ahead.
It was them trying to be like a little bit more industrial, right?
Yeah, 9 Inch Nails thing, kind of like a longer version of My World on Use Your Illusion 2, which was horrible. I like the more rock sound, but that mix. There's a couple tracks that are okay with that. On Better, I think, is one that's slightly probably the most industrial thing is Shackler's Revenge on Chinese Democracy, but there's a track or two I'm not wild about, but I would give it a spin and check it out. There Was a Time is a great track on there.
I have Chinese Democracy. I remember not hating it, man. I remember I thought it was a good album, you know. I should probably revisit it because I haven't listened to it in a long time, so I should probably like pull it out again.
Yeah, I listened to it, believe it or not, with an open mind, and because I was kind of over GNR at that point. Like, whatever.
Listen. Between that and like the Illusions was like how many fucking years?
From 91 to 08. So however long that is.
91 to 08.
Yes.
That was 17 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use Your Illusions came out in 1991, and they put out Spaghetti Incident in 93, but that's
that
just the covers out.
That was pretty much crap in my opinion.
Yes, it was crap.
If they condensed the Use Your Illusion albums into one album, it'd probably be a really good album if you take the best songs off both of them.
It would be
crappy tunes on there, man.
Yeah, it would be, but Chinese Democracy was it would never live up to the hype it could. But no
like
way.
I said, I wanted to shit on them, man, but I heard them live and I'm like, fuck, dude. Axl sounded great.
Well, listen. When your debut album was Appetite for Destruction, nothing could live up to the hype.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Even the Illusions could never live up to that hype. You know.
Yeah.
They were huge though at that time. You know, I'll say they were like probably the biggest band in the world. You know, one of the biggest bands, but you know, I saw them with Metallica and Faith No More on that when they did that co-headline tour.
Yeah.
And
that's the big blow up.
I don't know.
It happened in Canada.
I gotta say, man, I think it was a bit of a mistake for GNR to follow Metallica, though, in my opinion. You know, I just thought Metallica came out blazing, and then I don't know, man. GNR came out, they were good, and then you know, I don't know, Axl's antics. I remember the show here in the Meadowlands when I saw them. I think he got hit in the head with a cigarette lighter, and it was like all over and shit, you know. And you know, I think Duff was saying, "You guys are fucking assholes for doing that," because he left the stage. I think eventually he came back though. So, but I mean, this was like an hour into the show, I think. So I think the show lasted probably, you know, a little over an hour and stuff. So, whatever, man. It's still cool to see them. Though.
It's cool. It's cool to see them. You know, the three guys back together now. Though, too. I could see Izzy back with them, but you know, I don't know what happened between those guys. But you know, it's good to see Duff and Flash back with them at least.
Izzy to me was a secret weapon in that band. I mean, when
I think that's the reason why they didn't come out with any albums afterward. I think Izzy was part of the writing team, man.
He was one of the main writers, and he's one of my favorite members. But ever since Axl gained control of the band completely, he doesn't want to share any of the profits, and he just wants to pay them as contracted employees. Yeah, and Izzy said, "I'm good, thanks."
I mean, didn't those guys like come together from Indiana or some shit like that to California? I mean, they know each other from high school or something, didn't they?
Izzy and Axl did. Lafayette, Indiana.
I mean, what happened? I mean, damn, that just sucks, dude.
Izzy stopped doing drugs. That's what.
Friend. Yeah, Axl was pretty much.
Izzy got clean and seen what was going on and got the hell out of Dodge before it turned into what it turned into, and lives off his royalties, Appetite for Destruction. He's good. He just does what he wants to do. Nice. So, but back to Tesla, my number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Very
went,
much,
we went,
very
we
much
went
in the
up in a
same vein.
tangent there.
Yeah, very much in the same vein as GNR. Really, less look, uh, just substance over style. Great band, my number one. So
All right. Let's wheel this right back. Al, what's your number one?
Well, I mean, like going back like 15 years ago, I really kind of deep dove into this band. And I mean, I knew them in high school and, you know, I knew the one or two songs that got played on the radio, but I never really delved beyond that. But Thin Lizzy, I love this band now. Like, I mean, I love Jailbreak, you know, Johnny the Fox and Thunder and Lightning. I saw the version of Thin Lizzy when they toured with John Sykes fronting them, which was really cool. It's John Sykes, Scott Gorham. Michael Lee was the drummer who played with Page and Plant. And the bass player was, his name is escaping me right now. He's been in a lot of different bands. Anyway, I saw that version of the band. I thought that was awesome, you know, and I thought John Sykes fronting them.
Wasn't it that dude from the Firm? Wasn't he the bass player for him?
No, not Tony Franklin.
Yeah,
No.
that's what I was thinking. Okay,
No, it was another bass player. Marco Mendoza, that's it. Marco Mendoza. So, but Michael Lee was a drummer when I saw him. I think there was a time when they had Tommy Aldridge in the band, but I didn't see them with him. But Michael Lee was great. I mean, he played with Page and Plant. He passed away since. Yeah, Thin Lizzy, man. I mean, Phil Lynott, man, one of the greatest lyricists in my opinion. If I had a top 5 lyricists, he'd definitely be in there. His lyrics were like off the charts great. He told stories and that you know, the first 2 albums when they were just a trio, very folky and all that, and then, you know, Nightlife was when they changed formats. They got the dual guitar format, but that album was pretty mellow still. It's kind of mellowy like that album. It was then after that, like, you know, they started really like doing that twin guitar attack, and even Black Rose with Gary Moore, great album. Yeah, I mean, they were just solid albums, man, one after another. And I think they should be bigger in this country, man. I mean, Boys Are Back in Town is like really the only song you ever hear on the radio. Once in a blue moon, you'll hear Jailbreak, but, you know, they should be playing like Cowboy Song and, you know, Suicide and all this great stuff, man, that they have. Thunder and Lightning was the last studio album they ever put out. What a great way to go out on, man. I mean, that's like one of their heaviest albums with John Sykes. And it's like one of the greatest final albums of a band, you know, in my opinion. So Thin Lizzy's my number one. I really dove deep into this band like the last 10, 15 years. And they're killer, man. I think more people should really, you know, listen to them. So that's my number one.
Yeah, with Thin Lizzy, I'm just starting to get into them. You know, of course, Jailbreak, the album had the hit songs, which I was very, very familiar with. But man, it does not tell the whole story of that whole album. That whole album, Jailbreak, is fantastic. And before we came on, Jerry and I were talking about the songwriting. It's so different from any other hard rock band on the songwriting that they did. It was kind of a poppy songwriting. You know what I mean? But along with a very heavy sound to it. So, yeah, very good pick, Thin Lizzy.
But like Al said, man, the fucking lyrics. The guy could tell stories, man. Fucking, you know, great lyricist.
My number one has been talked about by everybody, but my number one is Tom Petty. He's one of my top 10 of all time, actually, and just his songwriting, the way he presented himself. I think we've already talked about everything about him, but there's a couple of albums that are like She's the One soundtrack is fantastic, even though he called it a lot of leftovers that he gave. man, those were his leftovers, songs he didn't want.
Right. If
And,
that's leftovers, and damn, right? Yeah.
and a lot of those songs were also on the expanded Wildflowers version that came out probably about 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
But his death was very important to me.
I saw that Wildflowers documentary, which was great.
Yeah. And it's weird. Sometimes I can't believe that he's actually gone. He was always a staple in my life, ever since I was a kid with the videos, then in junior high, and then Into the Great Wide Open was one of my favorite albums because I was just going to high school when that came out. So I grabbed it and I thought it was a fantastic album with extra long songs that were a little bit more longer than his usual stuff. His songwriting had gotten stronger with almost each album. And y'all are right when y'all said that he didn't really compromise. Everything that he did was in the Tom Petty style, So Tom Petty is my number one, and rightfully so.
Can't go wrong with that. Man.
Yep, you can't. Everybody, that was a lot of good picks. We had a lot of different music from Thin Lizzy to the Tubes, Testament, Tommy Shaw, Tempo of the Dog, Triumph, Toto, Tool, Typo Negative, Thin Lizzy, James Taylor. We touched on a lot of different types of music, which was fantastic. But let's touch on a couple of honorable mentions. What are your 5, Jerry?
Charles mentioned them. Toto, great band, great hit making machine band. Tony Iommi for Black Sabbath, man, the godfather of heavy metal guitar playing, in my opinion. Al mentioned T-Rex. And I'm not really a big fan of this genre of music, but I've always liked them. Toadette Sprocket. Always liked those guys for some reason. And, I got to give a shout out to Taylor Hawkins, man. The guy was a great freaking drummer, dude. Liked by everybody. I mean,
yeah.
I think I don't know if it was his first band, but I saw him. He was a drummer for Alanis Morissette on her first album. I don't know if that was his first professional gig or not, but that's the first time I seen him. And I mean, fucking a great drummer, a great guy, it seemed like, man, and liked by everybody in the business.
Yeah, you could just tell by the people that gave him
right. He's such a fan of music, man.
Right. I mean,
and it's funny when you see him in pictures with like other like musicians that he admired. He just seemed like so awestruck,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
He's such a fan, like. I think he fulfilled, even though he died very young. I mean, he fulfilled a lot of dreams in his life. I think, he set out to do what he did, and I mean, he's gone too early, obviously, but. I mean, musicians can only dream of like achieving like what he did, So
right with the people that he did.
Yeah.
And I've seen Foo Fighters a couple of times, but I've also seen Sherry Metal one time, which was really, really cool. Which was like his '80s hard rock covers band, which was really cool because they put the drums towards the front because, of course, he was Taylor Hawkins, so that was really cool. Charles, what's your honorable mentions?
All right, one of them slightly one-hit wonderish, but I think a prototypical song for hard rock and metal was made by this group, the Trogs, well known for Wild Thing.
Yep.
Tupac is on my list, one of the all-time great rappers.
Yeah.
Twisted Sister, everybody else cups on. Thin Lizzy, somebody else's number one. That I like them, but I don't listen to them as much probably as you guys, but I like them. And another obscure band I found lately, but they were out back in the day, Tigers of Pantang.
That's John Sykes' first band.
So I've been digging on that album, so I put them in there.
Nice. Good ones. What are yours?
I got Temple of the Dog. The only reason I put them in honorable is because they only really had one album,
Yeah.
So if they would have continued on, but like seeing them on that show was incredible. So I got to put them in there. 10 Years After, which you touched on, Andy, I think great band. Alvin Lee, man, just a killer guitar player. Toto, obviously everybody knows, great musicians. I'm gonna go with TNT, band out of Sweden. Ronnie Latecro, man, such a killer guitar player. Tony Harnell, great vocalist. They had a couple good albums in the '80s. Knights of the New Thunder is probably the best album. That's kind of their first English-speaking album. When Tony Harnell came in, they were more of a power metal. They had more of a power metal sound on that album. And then Tell No Tales, the next album, kind of went a little more in the glam metal direction, but still a great album. And a Canadian band that's really I kind of got into around the time when Gord Downie was like passing away was the Tragically Hip. I thought they were like pretty good, kind of like the Canadian version of like REM, kind of very lyrical. Their lyrics are very rooted in Canada though, so if you're not really Canadian and you listen to lyrics, you're not going to get like what he's talking about. But I thought they were a pretty solid band, and I've dove into a couple of their albums, and they're actually pretty good. It's not something I'll listen to all the time or whatever, but for something a little different flavor, I'll throw them on. They're like one of the biggest bands in Canada too, man. So I was like, I really wanted to know like what the deal was with them. So, and I remember catching their last show that was televised because Gord Downie knew he was going to pass away from brain cancer. I think it's the same cancer that Neil Peart passed away from. He knew his time was limited, so they went on one last tour, and then the last show was televised. And I remember watching it. It was pretty emotional actually, because everybody knew it was the end. So Tragically Hip, man, I'll throw them in there too as an honorable mention. So I always loved that name too, the Tragically Hip. I always thought that was a cool name. So
really think about it.
Yeah.
Mine have been touched upon, but there's one that wasn't. But I'm going to start off with Traveling Wilburys. The only reason why they're not in the top 10 was because their output was only the 2 albums. And another one, Temple of the Dog, only 1 album. And another one, Them Crooked Vultures.
yeah,
You know, that 3-piece with along with John Paul Jones, on bass, and Dave Grohl and Josh Homme. Is that how you pronounce his name, Homme or Home?
I thought it was Hami.
Homme.
Josh Homme.
Well, then I was wrong both times. Homme.
That's an album. That's an album that I always thought didn't live up to the hype.
Really?
Yeah, it's an okay album, but it never really grabbed me.
Okay.
I always thought maybe if they would have stuck together, maybe gelled a little more, maybe did maybe the second album probably would have been better. But maybe I don't know, maybe one day, who knows?
Yeah, I dig it. Also, Typo Negative, which you had touched upon, Twisted Sister, which we mentioned, and one that we did not mention that I like because it was during my 90 days, my 90s era, but Third Eye Blind has some really good songs. So that wraps up my list of the letter T. Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching, and thank you so much, Jerry and Charles and Al, for joining me next week on that on Black Spinner Music Music Podcast. We are having guest pick, and next week's pick is going to be by Jerry, and he chose Fastball, a 1990s alternative band out of Austin. The album we're going to be reviewing is All the Pain Money Can Buy. So we will be reviewing that album next week, and we'll be going into November, and we will be picking also a certain year sometime next month as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll keep y'all posted with all the new episodes coming up in different different subjects. So thank you so much. Tomorrow, you guys that are watching us, also watch the BS sessions with Mark and Jerry. They are going to be doing the Queen album along with Charles Trainer. It looks like it's going to be a double album because y'all are doing 16 songs, right? Is it 16 songs?
Yeah.
Y'all are going to be doing 16 songs by Queen. And what do you got going on, Al? You got a show going on this weekend? A concert you might go to?
Tomorrow, I might be going tomorrow night to go see Joe Satriani. It's up in the air. A friend of mine has an extra ticket. If I'm up for it, I might go. Other than that, it's Halloween. Other than that, it's Halloween weekend. So I mean, I might go to the. Thinking about going to the Chiller Theater, and they have that expo here in New Jersey. I know Ace Frehley's going to be there. Cheech Marin is going to be there. Catherine Bach, Daisy Duke's going to be there.
Yeah,
Wow.
Duke
I
herself.
might have to meet her.
Yeah, you might have to.
But yeah, it's a cool expo. A lot of movie stars and musicians go, and they do like signings and pictures and stuff like that. So I was toying with the idea of going, and so that might be my weekend. I don't know. Who knows? I might take my daughter out trick or treating too and stuff. So,
Yeah.
So that's really it for me.
Hey, speaking of Kayla, how did she like that Maiden show you took her to?
Oh, dude, she loved it, man. They have a spectacular enough stage show to keep them,
Right.
Yeah, of course.
eyes. But she was getting into it too. She was really, she enjoyed it. So,
Okay, cool.
and they were awesome, man. They sounded great. I thought they sounded better than they did a couple of years ago in 2019 when I saw them last. I think Bruce's voice sounds better this time around.
Really?
He seems to be not struggling as much, as with the higher notes. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they were great, man. So, Maiden is always pretty much great, man. I mean,
they've always been.
they came out. The first 3 songs were like new songs, so they were like, let's probably get these out of the way. You know what I mean? And I mean, they weren't bad. I mean, I don't shit on the new album like a lot of people do, but I mean,
I like
the
the
newer
new
Maiden
album
stuff. The newer Maiden stuff tends to bore me. They get too long with their songs, and it's not like they're really being progressive with the songs. It's just that they're extending the choruses and the, so whatever, man.
Yeah, I'm probably the only guy that likes the Blaze era, so I'm a big Maiden nut swinger. So as you can tell, in the background. So to me, they can do no wrong.
Hey. Dude, what do you think of the newest album?
I love it. I mean,
did you?
I still can't pronounce the name of it. Senjutsu. Is that how you pronounce it?
Senjutsu or something.
But yeah, I don't mind. It sounds weird. It sounds like it's recorded like in, I don't know, weird sounding, but I like it. I mean, is it their greatest? No, but I thought the Book of Souls was better.
See, my problem with their newer material, like the material in the last 20 years, is I think Kevin Shirley is not a good fit for them as a producer. That's my opinion. I don't think Kevin Shirley is a great producer. I think he's a great engineer, but as far as producer goes, I think he's not. I don't think he's a right fit for them. I think they should go with a different producer. That's my opinion. But they seem to love him, and Steve Harris's mind is a certain mindset now. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be glued to the TV this weekend watching the World Series.
Of course, yeah.
I've talked to my wife into dropping me off at the nearest brewery on Friday night. Just waiting me there till the game's over. So
and then you're gonna stagger home.
She'll come pick me up. It's long with stagger. I'm going to try this new brewery right down the street that I haven't been to. I've already looked at their menu while I was working today. Oh man, I gotta get that. So
man, I hate living in the sticks, man. I gotta go like an hour and a half away to see good shit. But I think Houston's gonna win it in 6, in my opinion.
I thought 5.
Like you said, 5 is not a reach, so I'm going with 6.
Yeah. But it should be a good one. I'm excited. I watched every World Series since 1982. So not just because my team's on there. I remember in 1982 when we moved into our house. Oh, well, my mom's house that she's currently in, and we didn't have any furniture, but we had a TV, and we watched the Brewers and the Cardinals, 1982, and from then on,
Wow.
I've been hooked to the sport. So once again, thank you so much, everybody, for watching us. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll be in contact for next week's show if y'all want to join on Wednesday. I'll post it out there tomorrow and get some feelies. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care and rock on, everybody.
All right, later, everybody.
Yeah.
Take care.